Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to show you how to paint a loose anemone bouquet. So let's do it. Okay, so to start, I'm just going to go through my materials. I have my Arches watercolor paper, my Winsor & Newton professional watercolors in my palette. I have my Princeton snap brush in a size 6, my water, my paper towel, and we're ready to go. Okay, so we're going to be doing a little bouquet of anemone flowers, and I really like doing these flowers, especially loosely. They're very easy, and when you add that center detail, I find they really pop, so that's what we're doing today. Now, before I jump right into the painting part, I'm just going to give you a quick lesson on perspective of flowers. I have another tutorial on this from a year or two back, but I just wanted to refresh. Now, I don't usually sketch out my flowers before I draw them unless I'm doing more realistic flowers, but today I just want to give you kind of an idea of how to paint these flowers in different perspectives. So if you're looking at an anemone from top down, you're going to have the center, and then you have those little bits coming from the center. I'm doing a super rough, like super rough. And then you have the petals coming out like this, okay? Now, if I wanted to change the perspective of this, maybe it, instead of, imagine this is the center of the flower, instead of it being a view from top down, maybe the flower is slightly curved to the right or the left or up or down. You're gonna wanna change the position of that center. So what I want you to think is the anemone is a circle. From the top down view, you put that center right in the middle of the circle. If you want to switch the view, so let's start with our circle. You're gonna simply change the position of the center. So say we want this flower to be pointing that way, okay? It's a bit more open. You're going to move the center downward, and then these petals will be longer, and these ones on this side will be shorter. And that helps change the perspective of the flower. And because we're doing a bouquet of these flowers, you're gonna want them all in different perspectives. You're not gonna want them all from the top down view. It's just not as realistic. Even though we are doing loose florals, you still want it to have an element of being semi-real, if that makes sense. Okay, so just one more. Maybe we want one that's facing down. And you can also change the shape of your circle too. Sorry, this is really messy. So this one's pointing down. So we're gonna bring that center up. There, you're gonna have a petal here, and usually it's curved, so you can see the back part of it. The petals on this side will be longer, and they'll just get shorter and shorter, like that, okay? And it changes the perspective. And same with that center, you have these little lines that come out from the stamen and the little detail there. You're not gonna see the lines as much on this side because everything is shorter on this side, so maybe those little circles are closer to the center of the stamen, if that makes sense. Okay, so I hope this wasn't too rough that you didn't understand, but that's basically how you kind of change up the perspective of the flower. Okay, so let's get into painting. I usually like to start with one that is facing from the top down, that's usually kind of in the center-ish. And we are gonna be doing some lightly colored anemones. I'm just gonna mop up that really quickly. Clear a little spot. So we're going to be doing some white anemones with some pinks and purples in them, and then that Payne's gray center. So any white flower has an undertone of something. So some of these are going to have an undertone of Payne's gray. So I just did a really light wash of Payne's gray, and some may have an undertone of pink. So I'm just grabbing the slightest amount of pink. Okay, and you can even do some that have a little undertone of yellow if you want, whatever. So just make an extremely light wash to start. I'm gonna start with the Payne's gray one. And I'm gonna roughly do the shape of the anemone. So I'm just gonna have these big kind of fat petal shapes. Okay, and I know you can barely see it, but we will add, excuse me, a bit more color where you will be able to see it. And especially when we add greenery around too, you will see it. So just really loose don't think too much about it, like that. Okay, then I'm gonna grab a bit more of my Payne's Gray color. It's a bit too much, and I'm just going to tap it closer to the middle, like that. Wash more of it off, maybe bring some of that color up. Very light, and I know it may look like too light, but once it dries, you'll be able to see it for sure. Okay. So there's our first anemone. That's the top-down view, and once it's dry, we will do that center. Okay, so now I'm gonna do another one, and I'm gonna have a pink undertone. So I'm just gonna take this really, really light pink wash, and I'm gonna have this one facing that way. So I'm gonna do really short petals here. So just kind of like a U curve. Then I'm gonna do some longer ones on this side. Okay, try and visualize that circle. If you need to draw it out, you definitely can. I'm having a little bit of Payne's Gray mixing in with this pink, and that's totally fine. They're bleeding into each other, that's also fine. And the trick with making loose florals is leaving a decent amount of white space in between petals to get that illusion of the separation of petals, okay? So I know you can barely see it. I'm just gonna grab a bit more pink, and I'm gonna tap that center. Actually, I want it, no, that's good. I might even bring some little lines coming down. Wash some of that off, maybe even a little bit at the tips. You can even create some of that yellow or a peachy color and just drop it in there just a bit. Like that, okay. Let's do a yellowy one, yellowy, okay, a yellow undertone. So this one is gonna be facing more down this way. So I'm gonna do the short petal here. So do that kind of like curved, like a C curve shape. And then longer petals out this way. You can even drop some of that yellow in that other one. These flowers come in tons of different colors and shades, so just play around, have fun with it. You can do them all the same, you can do them different. Totally up to you. I'll grab a bit more yellow and just tap the base here of those petals. Might even grab a little bit of Payne's Gray just for a bit of darkness. Like that. And make sure you're dropping that extra color in while it's still wet. Okay, you can even grab a little bit of black if you want, like the tiniest bit, to create some shadow. Okay, and that can be the undertone color, a light gray. Like that. Okay, now before I go on, I might add some, this one's kind of dry. I'm gonna add some eucalyptus around while it's still wet in parts. Hopefully it's still wet. So I'm just gonna make some Hooker's Green Dark and a dioxazine purple mix. And I'm gonna have some of this eucalyptus touching the anemones. I'm just doing these rounded kind of petal shapes. And I'm having it touch the anemones so they bleed a bit, and then it also kind of shows the outer shape of the anemone. That makes sense. Okay. Oops, that's a bit too much. That happens, and that's okay. Grab a little bit of that color. It's all good. Okay, and we are gonna put more over here too. Is this still wet? I think that's dry. We are gonna do some more anemones just tucked in here, so I'm gonna leave some of that space. Just wanted a little bit of color bleeding into those too much. Sometimes that happens. Just mop it up. Like that. Okay. Okay, so let's continue on with the anemones. We'll do maybe another pinkish one down here. So let's get some long petals. This one's going to be a bit more tucked in underneath that one. So you're going to see the long petals coming out this way. Behind and there. Remember, this is a loose painting. It does not have to be specific. I might grab even a little bit of mauve. Like that. Okay. Like that. We'll do another one over here. Maybe we'll do another like yellowy one. Just have those leaves, petals popping out from behind that center one, like they're tucked in. Once we add the centers of these flowers, you'll really see them pop. You're just doing these really rough petal shapes. You know what, maybe I'll do another yellow one over here. So you barely even see it. I'm just kind of leaving that center bit. And creating some petals. And because this one is so tucked down underneath, I might actually grab a little bit of, that's not black, a little bit of black to create a little bit of shadow, so I can even mix that black with a bit of yellow. There's a bit more of a gray undertone, a grayish yellow one. Okay, I'm gonna grab some more of that green and pop it in this one. Like that. And you can always grab a bit more green too before it dries. And just darken up part of that stem if you want. Or like the base of the eucalyptus. Okay, and then, let's have another, let's do this color again. Just rough shapes, keep going, or stop whenever you want. You could do 3, you could do how many ever you want. There are no rules. I'm gonna grab a little bit of Payne's gray and just in the base there. Maybe I'll put a bit of greenery in here too, just have it bleed in there. I'm gonna do a longer eucalyptus stem over here. I'll try and water it down a bit more. Like that. Grab a little bit more darkness and just touch the bottom of those eucalyptus stems. Like that. You could always do different leaves too. It doesn't have to be eucalyptus. Maybe I'll do a bit of like tiny little seeded bits. So just little stems and then little dots at the end of the stem. Like they're tiny little leaves almost. And this looks a bit rough, so I'm just gonna add a bit more pink here. Try and mop this up a bit. I feel like that stem is a bit too, I don't know what the word is, just out there. Just wetting this all up again. Okay, like that. And then I think we can do maybe just the back of one more over here. Just have a nice lush bouquet of anemone flowers. Okay. Okay. And then while we're waiting for all the centers to dry, just plop in your greenery wherever you think they will look best. I'm being really loose with it. Change up the value of your greenery. So do some darker, do some lighter. Gonna have more of those little stems. Okay. Just using the tip of my brush and then pressing down a little bit to create those little like seeded bits. Nothing crazy specific. Okay. And I feel like there's a bit of a hole here, so I might do one more, just petals. Pretend that there's another one back there. I'm just filling in those white areas behind some of the really light anemones. Will just kind of give it that framing that it needs. Just really rough little seeded bits. Now I'm going to do some lighter leaves like that. Okay. So now we are just going to wait for it to completely dry so we can do the centers of the anemones, which will be the final part. Okay, so now that it's dry, we can grab our brush. I think I was using a bigger brush. Was I using my size 12? Yes, I was. Okay, I'm gonna grab my smaller brush and I'm gonna use my Payne's Gray, which the professional Payne's Gray is a bit more on the indigo side. So if you wanna use indigo, if you have like a different shade, you can do that. And we're gonna start with the center one. And we're just gonna do a rough circle with the tip of our brush like this. Okay, and then we're gonna do little lines with the tip of your brush, really, really light pressure going out. And then at the end of those lines, you're just gonna make little dots, okay? Like that, okay? And that's the view from the one that's top down. Now let's go to let's do this one up here. You can barely see this one. You see half of it. So I'm just gonna do almost like a semicircle, just going behind this one. And you'll just see the lines on the top here. Maybe a little bit going under, okay? And try not to make it too perfectly round, all right? Okay, so there's that one. Let's do, there's one over here we can just do a bit of. Like that. This one, so I'm gonna do more of a kind of a oval shape. And where the side where the long petals are is where you see those little lines, they're gonna be longer. And then on the short petal side, they're a lot shorter. Okay, same kind of method as how you painted the petals. Okay, so these little dots are closer to that center. Like that. And see how it's already kind of popping a bit more? Same here. You're just gonna do like almost a semicircle because this one's hiding behind that first anemone. Little lines. Like that. And then this one is kind of a top-down version. It's a bit smaller, it's further away. Like that. Can't tell if this one, I think that was one, so I'm just gonna do another one over here. Can't remember. But it's loose, so it doesn't really matter. Like that, and then the last one is over here. So again, you can even do more of an oval, okay? It's more of a side view. So the longer petals are on this side, so you're gonna do the lines up this way. No lines really on that side, and then the dots. Okay? There you go. So that already kind of just brings it to life a bit more. Now, if you really want to, you can always add a bit more shading and depth. Let's give it a try, shall we? Okay, so I'm just going to take another little like light wash. I might even take a little bit of black to get a bit of a shadow color. So a little bit of Payne's gray, a little bit of black, and I'm just going to, that's a lot. Just gonna create some shadow marks. Just really rough. Remember, this is a loose painting. Don't put pressure on yourself for it to be perfect. Okay, you're just creating kind of like these loose shadows. I'm gonna blend that out in a minute. It's a bit dark. Take some water off your brush, dry it, and just blend it out. And then I might even go up to the top of the petals. Wash off my brush, dry it, blend out some of those harsher lines. And this is an optional step. If you like it the way it is before, you can do that. You can also just do darker anemones so they are a bit more, what's it called? You know, I don't know. I can't speak. You know, the word that I'm looking for. Sometimes I wonder how you guys watch my tutorials when I clearly don't have words. Gonna grab a bit more black, just a tiny bit more black. Just pop it in there towards the center because the center would have more shadow. And you can always even do lines too if you want. Really does not matter. How you want to add detail or not add detail. Okay, like that. There you go. And you can do the same thing with the other colors. So I'm going to grab a bit of yellow, mix it with this black here, and just do some shadow lines coming out. Okay, so you can see how sharp those lines are. Wash off your brush, dry it, and kind of blend them out so they're not as sharp. Unless you like the sharp look, and that's totally cool too. Okay, I'm just gonna do it to some of these, maybe the ones that are a bit more up front, or maybe I'll do it to all of them. I don't know yet. Grab my pink, and I'm not too crazy about like what colors I used, blah, 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 blah. I'm just kind of throwing in some color that's similar. Wash off my brush, dry it, blend it out. Just creating that bit of shadow. Like that. Cool. Okay, let's get that pink one. So I'm mixing it with the little bit of black I had here. And you really just want to use the lightest amount of color that you can. So this is even a bit dark, remember? And then you're just going to wash off your brush again, dry it, blend out those tips. Blend out those lines to make them softer. And if that's still too dark, like this is still pretty dark, do it again, wash and dry off your brush, grab those edges, just blend them out. Like that. Again, let's get that yellow mix going. Oops, too much black. Okay. Add a little bit of depth to these ones. Wash, dry off your brush, blend it out. Get more, bit more darkness on this one because it's underneath a few flowers, so there would be a bit more shadow under this one. And it's mixing in with a bit of that center, that's okay. Like that. And I think that's pretty good. Let's do a couple more over here. Oops. It's probably a better idea to do it when your centers are completely dry, but I am impatient. And there you go. Okay, and you can always, so I can see that the greenery is starting to fade a bit. If you want to go over with some of them and just have some, even do more of those little, go over some of the little seeded parts, just have some pop a bit more, being a bit darker. You can definitely do that. Have some darker leaves. Whatever you think it needs, do it, have fun. Don't be afraid to mess up. It's a loose painting, just have fun with it. And that's about it. Thank you all so much for watching my video. I really hope you liked it and I hope you learned something. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and follow me on Instagram and Facebook for even more. Have a great day, guys. Bye.